Blog Talk Radio, the world's largest online radio network.
Welcome to the Be Legendary Show. I'm your host today, Kristen White, and my co-host Dave Van Hoos is on location out in Rancho Santa Fe, out in California. He is at the Wealth and Freedom Mastermind that he co-hosts with Robert Allen. So Dave Van Hoos will not be with us today, but we are in for such an incredible treat. Our guest today is a master sales trainer. He is a real leader in the industry, and he's going to talk to us today about how to have the most powerful converting conversations that we can have to attract not only more people into our business, but to actually get them to the point where they're saying yes. And that means more flow of cash into, buying our products, buying our services. And it's so important today. We were just talking about, he has a book that's out, which is, how to sell in the new economy. And I know many of you are thinking some of the things that we had that worked for us in the past, it's just not working the way that it used to work today. So my guest today is Eric Lofholm, and again, he has a master sales trainer. He has worked with over 1,500 public and private companies and done presentations all over the world. So Eric, thank you so much for being with us here today on the Be Legendary Show.
You're welcome. I'm excited to be here and share some ideas that are going to make a difference for the listeners.
Absolutely. So we were just talking about the new economy right before the show came on. What do you think is the most important thing that all of us entrepreneurs and professionals need to realize about sales in the world that we live in today?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that are really important, and one is in this economy, the money's very different than what it was previously as far as people's ability to purchase products and services. Most people have fewer dollars to spend, and because of that, you need to have an outstanding presentation. In addition to that, improving our sales systems, we also need to take a really strong look at how we're integrating technology into our selling. And so in my own business, we're revamping everything as far as how the leads come in, how are we leveraging technology, looking at things like automated webinars, how do we use technology to assist in the sales process. And unfortunately, a lot of people have their head in the sand on this one. And so I think those are the two key things to work on: your sales systems, and then integrating technology in with your selling.
So I think those are amazing points, and let's break it down into two separate categories. If you don't mind, that would be amazing. The presentation, you said it's really important to have an outstanding presentation. I know that Dave Van Hoos over at Speaking Empire, this is something that he really specializes is in his power day, is crafting those presentations that lead to a yes. Tell me a little bit about what needs to be inside this presentation today to get people to, actually invest in your product?
Well, the first thing to look at is what's the sales model. And so if you think about something we can all relate with, the Girl Scouts selling Girl Scout cookies, that's a one-call close. In other cases, we're going to set an appointment, meet with the prospect, and then close at the end of the initial appointment. In another sales model, a set appointment, one-call, two-call close. That's like how a financial services professional sells. So we've got to first determine what's the sales model. Once we've determined that, then what I teach is to break down the sales presentation into individual steps. And I teach a process called the sales mountain. And so it breaks down the sales process into individual steps. And then once you identify what the steps are, then we're going to determine what's the script in each step. And this level of preparation in the previous economy, most people never did this because they didn't need to. They could just go in and show up, wing their presentation, do a pretty good job of communicating benefits, ask for the order, and be successful. And my experience is that's just not the case today. And so, if you want to excel, it's all about preparation and literally getting the presentation down to in some cases, word for word in each step of the sales process.
So what I hear you saying is that it's very important not only to have a very clear script, but also to understand what your model is. Are there certain models that work well for one industry as opposed to another?
Well, I would look at, what's the common model in your industry, and then we start thinking about this other conversation of integrating technology in. So where do we bring technology in to either add steps to the sales process? Like, here's a simple example. My company will contact sales organizations about one of my trainers being a guest speaker at their weekly sales meeting. So we might call up the local Century 21 office in Sacramento, where I live, and offer to have myself or one of my trainers come out and be a guest speaker. And so what we've decided to do when we initially call in, instead of going for a one-call close for booking the appointment, we actually drive the prospect to a website where they watch a video that explains, it's just a short 90-second video, and it explains what it's about, how it works. And so we've brought technology in, and we changed the sales model from trying to get an appointment on the initial call to let's drive them to a website, and then we're going to call back and close on the second appointment. So that's a real-world example.
So what I hear you saying is that people need more than one touch in this economy, and that you can use technology to give that additional touch before you ask for the sale?
Yeah, on the appointment setting side, one of the things that I've recently been teaching my own trainers, and years ago we weren't looking at how to interact Facebook communication, for example, in the sales process, because Facebook was either just getting started or didn't exist. And so what I'm teaching my trainers right now, in the old days it was all about cold calling, make 50 calls a day. And so what I've instructed my trainers to do is it's all about touches, and a touch could be a cold call, it could be an email, a video email, a direct message on Twitter, a direct message on Facebook. And so we've shifted to communicating in terms of touches versus cold calling.
And what has that meant for the bottom line, even in your company?
Well, I don't have any specific results on it. This has been a relatively new shift in my organization. My trainer program is something we launched back in February of this year, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later, but we basically took two models that have existed for many, many years, and we did a slight tweak on these models, and we used innovation to come up with a whole new trainer model. And so we're in the process of getting these trainers trained at this point, and I think it's necessary. If there's people like me that are thinking in terms of how do you integrate Facebook and video, email, and so forth, your competition is thinking that way. And so unfortunately a lot of people aren't thinking that way, and they're going to struggle, and there'll be many companies that will literally go out of business because they're unable to shift their mindset to embrace the integration of technology with their sales system.
I love what you're talking about, Eric, because even inside my company, I'm a media coach and a video production expert. And what we do is we do a combination of videos on landing pages that lead to an automated webinar that then lead to an appointment. And what you're talking about is exactly where I think so many businesses are thinking about going, but they don't really know how to get started. How would you recommend that people who are wanting to start to integrate this innovation with their business and their sales process, where's the best place to just start?
Well, I think it starts with a mindset of realizing that this is where things are headed, and it's literally adapt or die. And when you come from that viewpoint, now you start looking for solutions. And it's interesting. I'm involved in a technology startup company. It's called True North Global. TrueNorthGlobal.com is our website. Truce is TRU. And that's what our company does, is we take the technology and we take the sales systems, and we just launched this just recently, and we're actually going into companies, and we're going to provide the consulting, the sales, and technology solutions to do that. So for somebody listening right now, it starts with the mindset, and then from there it's about finding who's on the cutting edge of this right now, who's thinking like this already, who can help you, and that's exactly why we started that company.
Now, you said that you looked at these two models and then you wanted to add in innovation, and you started in February. What is a realistic perspective for someone who wants to overhaul their business and add this technology of how much time it might take? I know we're all like so instant. We think, oh, this will be up and running in 30 days. But what's really realistic to move more towards an integrated technology and traditional sales model?
You know, I don't have a set number on that, but just what hits me as you're saying that is if you put together a 12 to 18-month strategy to go from where you're at. I mean, I'm thinking of a company right now, and we're possibly going to help this company, and they haven't agreed yet, so I'm not going to say their name, but this particular organization, they've been around since 1940. They have a sales team of 600 people, so they're a successful organization. They leave the technology and the training up to the branch manager. So they don't have an integrated company solution. And so I was talking to this branch manager the other day, and he's like, Eric, we're starving right now because I'm being asked at the branch manager level to provide these solutions, and this is something that needs to be solved at the corporate level. So here's a company that does not have they don't have a national sales training solution. They don't have a technology solution. So, you know, it'd probably take 12 to 18 months to install the system and then shift the mindset within the organization.
I'm glad that you're talking about this, because I do think that it is important for people to realize that not only does it take the mindset, but also that step-by-step planning. I know a lot of these automated, you know, whether you're using something that's email marketing like an Infusionsoft or something like that, that it has so many details and scenarios that it takes time and really the help of an expert like you to sort through that.
Well, one of the things that we're finding right now is that, you know, most companies, they get that they need a CRM, you know, Infusionsoft, Salesforce.com, you know, there's a variety of them.
Right.
They've gotten to the place where, okay, we know we need it, we have it, but they don't understand how to utilize the CRM in order for it to produce money. And so we're in a conversation right now with a major CRM, and what we're talking with them about is installing video training inside of their CRM. So if you're in the CRM application as a user, you have the option of going through videos that it's not about teaching you how to use the CRM. It's teaching you, here's what this feature is inside the CRM, and here's how you use it to make money or make more sales. And so there's a big gap in knowledge right now of yes, the CRM, yes, utilize it for systems, but then how do I actually use this thing and have it make me money?
I know that that's so true, because if you look at this high-powered technology, but there still has to be content inside. There still has to be that script or that sales message, and I know that you are an expert in that. Can you share with us a little bit of the strategy around that? I mean, I've seen now a real move towards shorter messages or brief language, but more touches. Can you talk a little bit about just the strategy inside the language of sales using automation?
You know, I think it all comes back to that initial thing we were discussing, which is the sales model of saying, okay, how am I going to touch the prospect? So the lead comes in, what ways am I going to touch the prospect with automation, autoresponder, video message, et cetera? And it's really thinking it through in a very strategic way. One of my friends is in the information marketing industry, and he's doing Google pay-per-click. And last month, I think he told me he generated a little over 6,000 leads, actual opt-ins from his Google campaign. And what he told me was, and I was so impressed with this, he said, Eric, I have mapped out every communication with a prospect for the first 30 days. So when they opt in, every communication, exactly what we want them to do, it's this well-thought-out integrated strategy. And what he told me is, in his experience, most people are taking like a shotgun approach with how they're communicating with their clients. It's like, well, one week it's this message, and the next week it's this message. And where he felt, and I agree with him, people are missing the boat, is this well-thought-out integrated strategy of how does the lead come in and how are you going to nurture that lead and lead them to a logical buying decision. And for anyone that's listening right now, if you actually did this, this would give you such an advantage in the marketplace, because the reality is most people are lazy. And so, this is like the most simple message in the world, but it's like roll up the sleeves and get to work. And if you get to work in a very strategic way, you can outwork just about anyone when you combine work ethic with the topics that we're talking about today, because we can bank on people being lazy because it's hard work, and people shy away from hard work.
You know, it's interesting because I'm thinking back to just a funnel that I recently developed for an opt-in. I thought, oh, it'll probably be, you know, a series of 5 videos. But when I was done mapping out the entire conversation in the emails, it was 46 different emails. You know, by the time you do all the different scenarios, watch the webinar, don't watch the webinar, and I was surprised by how much was required. Is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And here's the thing: 99 out of 100 people, they would look at your scenario that you just described. So they're now you, and they're mapping this out in their head, and they look at it and they go, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be more than 5 communications. Forget it," and they won't even do it. So I mean, the fact that you thought it through in the 46 different scenarios, there's very few people would even, once they realize how much work's involved, they just throw up their hands and go, "Forget it. That's just too tough for me." And that's good news for people like you and I that will do the work and have that level of discipline and optimize our business, because the majority of the competition won't. And there's a huge opportunity in this marketplace. You know, there's different things going on in the economy, but there's massive opportunity for those that are willing to put the work in and learn this sales systems and technology integration that we're talking about today. You know, you can really distance yourself from the field.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are just joining us, we are speaking to Eric Lofholm. He is a sales expert, a sales trainer, the author of the book, How to Sell in the New Economy. And if you want to call in today, we will take your questions, and that number is 646-929-2228. Again, that number is 646-929-2228. And I am your host here on the Be Legendary Show. The co-host, Dave Van Hoos, is off at the Wealth and Freedom, his mastermind with Robert Allen today out in Rancho Santa Fe. But Eric, we're going to take a break in just a second. But before we do that, I would just love to hear just a little bit about you. How did you begin your career as a sales trainer?
You know, it's interesting. I never had the goal to go into sales, let alone now I'm a global sales trainer. I help people all over the planet. And I struggled in sales. I worked for a real estate education company, and I was the bottom producer the first year that I worked there. I was put on quota probation, and the month that I was put on quota probation, I was introduced to the sales ideas of a gentleman named Dr. Donald Moyne, who's the author of Unlimited Selling Power, Ultimate Selling Power, Modern Persuasion Strategies. From my view, and I've been in this conversation for 19 years, he's the most brilliant sales mind on the planet. And so he took me under his wing 19 years ago and started teaching me what he had spent a lifetime learning. And so I have been trained literally one-on-one by a master for the last 19 years. And my natural gift that I was born with is the gift of teaching. So it was the combination of my natural gift of teaching with the most advanced sales systems taught to me directly by Dr. Moyne. And then 14 years ago, I started Eric Lofholm International. So we have a company that trains people, proven sales systems, and so that's the brief story of how I got into the training industry.
So share with us the name of your mentor one more time, just for those people who want to go grab his book or his work.
Yeah, so his name is Dr. Donald Moyne, and his most famous book is Unlimited Selling Power, which you can get on Amazon. He also wrote Modern Persuasion Strategies, which is the first NLP-based sales book ever written, for those of you that are familiar with NLP.
All right, so thank you for that amazing tip. And we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I'd love to talk about some really specific advice that you would give someone who is just starting out in sales. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Eric Lofholm.
like to discover how to create lasting, sustainable, and profitable success in your life? If the answer is yes, then listen up. Here's your opportunity to join hosts Dave Van Oos and Kristen White in person at the Be Legendary Experience in Irvine, California. At this one-time only exclusive event, you'll discover how to unlock millions in your message, become a legendary figure in your marketplace, create lasting change on the planet, all with the help of the world's most influential transformational thought leaders, live and in person. Seating for this event is limited, so act now and do not miss your opportunity. Visit us online at speakingempire.com/events. That is speakingempire.com/events, or call to register at 1-800-687-4061. That's 1-800-687-4061. Be bold, be remarkable, be legendary, and sign up today.
And we're back here on the Be Legendary Show, and I'm your host, Kristen White. And today my guest is Eric Lofholm, and we're talking about, he's the author of the book, How to Sell in the New Economy. And we were just discussing during the break about getting started for someone who just really wants to improve their game in sales. And Eric, I know you said that you offer training really globally. So what would you say to someone, what advice would you give them if they're just starting out?
Well, when I first got started, I was on quota probation. I was the bottom producer at the company that I worked at, and I didn't know how to sell. And when I made a sale, I didn't know why, and when I didn't make a sale, I didn't know why. And so the best advice I could give you is to do what I did, which was to get professionally trained. And so back then, I met my first mentor in sales. His name was Dr. Donald Moyne, and he taught me sales systems. And so this was a brand new concept to me. And it starts with embracing sales, so letting go of the mindset of resisting sales, which maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later in the call. In our culture, we've been programmed to resist sales. There's a stigma to selling in our culture. So it starts with letting go of sales resistance and embracing sales and recognizing that selling is simply a skill set. It's not good or bad. It's just a skill set like typing or accounting. And then once you've let go of sales resistance, then the next thing to do is look at your sales model and then your sales process and then the actual words that you say. And you can actually, if you're trained properly, you can get through that pretty quickly. And once the skill sets transfer over to you, you'll have the skill set for the rest of your life where selling can be fun, easy, and effortless.
Well, I think also what's so helpful is when you understand that when you're selling your product, if you believe in it, that it has transformational qualities, that you're actually providing a path of service. You're helping other people by giving them access to this expertise that you have. So I think that is, do you find that that's a big part of it, is understanding that you're helping someone or that you are providing a transformational service?
Yeah, embracing sales, it starts with a mindset, and things only have the meaning that we give them. So if we make sales mean arm twisting, high pressure, manipulation, which is how most people view sales, with that belief system, you're going to resist sales. And so we replace that belief system with what I teach. It's exactly what you were just saying. Selling equals service. Sell from honesty, integrity, and compassion. Selling is about leading. Selling is about moving people to action. And so with that mindset, we're now able to go out and powerfully support people. And then if you have a sales system behind it, it just becomes fun, easy, and effortless.
So what would you say, a lot of entrepreneurs out there, like you said earlier, it's that shotgun approach. We're trying one product this month, one product the next month. Do you think that the issue is the product, or do you think that people need to just kind of dig in, pick one thing, and then improve their offer or their sales system around that?
Well, I think it's about having a great idea. You know, if you look at Starbucks, they came onto the scene when the world did not need another coffee shop, and they went out and became a dominant global brand because of their strategy. So it's about having a really good idea. I mean, I launched my trainer program back in January, and we've grown from 0 to 51 trainers, and we'll probably be at 100 by the end of the year. And we just came up with a really innovative strategy. It was just a little wrinkle that no one that I'm aware of has ever done before. And so you got to put on your thinking cap in this economy. You've got to look for innovation. In a lot of cases, things that have worked in the past, they're not working anymore. And so it's solution-based selling. Look for who's got a problem that you can solve, and if you can come up with just a slight innovation on how to do that, you can have a tremendous breakthrough.
Is there a difference, Eric, when we are selling a product, like a physical product, versus a service?
I mean, there could be. It depends on the sales strategy. If you've got like information products, for example, those are relatively easy to sell through conference calls and webinars. If you're selling a service, it might be, let's say you were using a webinar strategy. At the end of the presentation, you might ask for a consultation as opposed to go to a website and put in your credit card. And so, every situation is a little bit different.
Can you speak to us a little bit? I mean, I know that I've heard this inside a lot of sales, that scarcity is crucial. You have to use, it's kind of the going, gone in some way, shape, or form. What would you say about that? Well,
the fear of missing out is one of the behaviors that drives us as human beings. If you look at the Cash for Clunkers program that the government put together a couple years ago, and they gave you a guaranteed trade-in of $3,000 or $4,000 depending on your car, if your car qualified. And basically the offer was, we guarantee you the trade-in until the end of the month, or we run out of money, whichever comes first. And so that created a frenzy with people because they were like banking on the fact that the government's probably going to run out of money before the time's up. And it was funny. I during that month, I called my wife and I said, I was like really quick with her on the phone. I'm like, honey, I'm going over to the dealership. Our car qualified. I'm going to go get a new car. And I tried to rush off the phone real quick before she could object. And she said, what did you say? I said, I'm going over to the dealership. Our car qualified for the Cash for Clunkers program. I'm going to go down the dealership and trade our car and get another car. And she goes, we don't need another car. She was kind of like, you're not going down and doing that. But I was so caught up in the fear of missing out that, and even though I know all these techniques, it still worked. And so this is why scarcity is so important. So anytime that you can communicate a true scarcity. So if I'm working with a coach, I always tell them, what does a full practice look like for you? And they might say, well, 20 clients. I would advise them to always use that when they're explaining their coaching program at the end, to say the maximum number of clients I work with is 20, because it's a true scarcity. And so that's one of many persuasion techniques that you can build into a presentation that would cause someone to say yes. And I'm sure Dave teaches a very similar thing when he does his one-day sessions with people, and he teaches them how to layer in these different ways of persuading people into the body of the presentation. And if you don't do this and you just go in and wing it, your presentation is going to be about two-thirds less persuasive than what it could be. And so, and I'm sure Dave teaches a very similar thing, is that you master the presentation and then you just go in and it will produce predictable results based on the idea that human beings respond in predictable ways. And so when you get the language down, I mean, it is amazing how much higher you can make your close ratio go by crafting a well-thought-out presentation.
Now, earlier you touched on with your mentor, Dr. Donald Moyne. He was one of the first people who wrote a book about NLP. what is the role? Well, first of all, what is NLP? I mean, I know what it is, but I know we have listeners who have no idea what that is. What is it, and is it something that's still relevant inside presentations today?
Yeah, so it's just a simple way of explaining NLP. It's the study of human excellence. So if someone else is producing a result, if you do what they do, then you can produce a similar result. And so Dr. Moyne came up in the NLP movement. He was actually a student at UC Santa Cruz with Richard Bandler, who was one of the co-founders of NLP. John Grinder was a linguistics professor at UC Santa Cruz. So NLP came out of UC Santa Cruz. If you want to learn more about it, just Google NLP. And Dr. Moyne took that, got his PhD in psychology, and he wrote his PhD dissertation on what separates sales superstars from average salespeople. And so he went out and did what's called expert modeling, which is observing people in action, watching what they do, versus interviewing somebody, like right now, like we're doing an interview.
Right.
So expert modeling would be, you'd follow me around for a week and watch what I actually do, because sometimes people do things different than how they say they do them. They might not even be consciously aware of how they produce the result. And so Dr. Moyne went out and did the research and has made a career out of teaching other people how to become sales superstars by applying what he learned from expert modeling.
So it's what comes to mind is, we were talking about how you got caught up in the cash for clunkers, and that these people who are sales superstars, they may not even realize what they're doing. I mean, what is the role between what we consciously think that we are presenting or projecting and then all the little subconscious things, or I would say unconscious things that we do that either work with us and make us in alignment or work against us?
Well, what Dr. Moyne observed when he went and spent time with sales superstars is he would interview them and say, well, what do you believe about this, and what do you think about that? And one question he would ask him is, do you use sales scripts? And he's talking to the best of the best in the world at selling, and in most cases they said, no, I don't use sales scripts. Then he would go observe them, and he found they asked the same questions, they told the same stories, they closed in the same way, they handled the objections in the same way, so they were unconsciously competent. They were using scripts without even realizing it. And so in a lot of cases, when you go to somebody who's brilliant at what they do, like an athlete, and ask the athlete, how do you break it down? How do you do what you do? In a lot of cases, they don't know. Magic Johnson, one of the best basketball players ever, was the coach of the Lakers at one point, and he didn't even make it a season because he was great at playing basketball, but he was terrible at translating to others how to be great at playing basketball.
So you have mentioned scripts several times during this amazing interview, so thank you, by the way. But break down what a script. How do you get started creating this script? Even if it's just a simple script, you just want to have a conversation. Maybe it's you get the appointment and they get on the phone with you, and you want to do a quick discovery session. What might be some key elements of that script? Yeah.
The whole conversation with scripting, it starts with letting go of resistance to scripting. And most people have a resistance to scripting based on their view of what a script is. So people think a script is canned, rehearsed, mechanical, reading from a page, inauthentic, it's just not me. So they resist the script. The problem with that is if you resist the script, then what are you left with? It's
right.
like lack of preparation. And so
wing it.
A script is simply words in sequence that have meaning. That's all a script is. And so it's not a question of whether or not anyone listening right now is using a script or not. Every one of you listening right now, you use scripts every day. If you're talking and making sense, then it's a script. So the definition of a script is words in sequence that have meaning, which now means that we all use scripts. So all of you could this is an hour-long conversation. I'm going to give you the 2-minute version. Okay. All of you can let go of your resistance to scripting, realizing you're all using scripts all the time. And so then the question is, well, how can I communicate things in order to produce the result, the desired result? How can I be the most persuasive, the most effective, the most impactful? And so from that view, then you take a step back and you think through the presentation in advance. And just getting to that realization is a huge breakthrough for most people to go, wow, I need to prepare in advance. And then you can take it to, like a very high level, which is what Dave's all about, and my company teaches this as well. My company is more about teaching the basics of scripting. Dave's like precise and really getting it down to, mastering the entire presentation. My organization is, we probably train more people in the world on the basics of scripting than any other organization out there. And it starts with, okay, I need a script, and then it's looking at what the sales sequence is. What's the order of the presentation? Like my basic presentation would be, you lead with trust and rapport, and then you identify customer needs, and then you share the benefits, and then you close. And so within that, you would then say, okay, what are the scripts that I'm going to use to build trust and rapport? And then what are the scripts that I'm going to use to identify customer needs? Something as simple as, for me to best help you, I need to ask you a few questions about your situation. Would that be okay? And then they're going to say yes, and say, what's most important to you about blank? What's most important to you about the sale of your home? What's most important to you about bringing in a guest speaker? What's most important to you about working with a coach? And so you know the questions that you're going to ask in advance, and then you go on to bringing the benefits to life, and then you go into the close. And just one simple tip, if you map out your close in advance, and then you practice it like the script for a play over and over and over again, your confidence will soar. And if you have a fear around asking for the money, that can completely disappear when you know the right words to say. So this can create a whole transformation in somebody, especially if they're brand new to these ideas.
So I know just from being in sales myself, and a lot of my clients as well, they're like, boy, I talked on the phone with this prospect. They were really excited in the beginning, but then as the conversation went into 45 minutes or an hour, I lost the sale. Is there a limit or a time frame? Is that important inside that conversation?
It absolutely is, because if you think about it, think about this logically. When do we ask for the order?
Right.
At the end of the presentation. So if the prospect gives you a half an hour, and you go long in the presentation, and you're now at the 30-minute mark, the amount of time allotted that the prospect gave you, and you just now start going into explaining how it works, and you're getting ready to ask for the order, and then let's just say you get through all that, and you ask for the order, and they go, they give you an objection, and then you start responding to the objection. They say, listen, I told you I had a half an hour. I'm interested. I'd love to talk with you further, but I've got to go.
Right.
There's no time to close the sale. So, one of the things that I will say is, sometimes in a presentation we get inspired with something and we go on a rant. We go in a different direction.
Right.
As speakers, this happens all the time. You're up there in front of the room and you get rolling and you go off your presentation, which causes you to go long. And now you have to make a decision. So you've got, let's say, 12 minutes left in your presentation. You have more content to cover, and you've got your close to go through. What I always teach is don't cut the close. Don't cut the close. And so the timing of the presentation it's a critical consideration. And so when I go into a presentation, I'm very mindful of the time. And that's part of my sales strategy when I'm with a prospect, whether it's over the phone, face-to-face, conference call, webinar, any of the scenarios.
It's interesting. I have one of my coaching clients has just recently started to do a series of webinars. He's a dental coach and dental practice coach. And in the webinars, I'm like, make sure you leave 10 minutes at the end of the webinar to make your offer. And so the last two webinars, there's like 2 minutes left. He's like, oh, by the way, if you want to buy my DVDs, they're here. And, they say it so fast, and I can tell that they need to make peace with the sales process. So a lot of people, they want to teach, and then when it comes time to do the offer, they do. You're right. They cut that short, maybe because they have that aversion towards the sales process.
Well, here's what that client needs to do. The close, that last 10 minutes of the close, it literally needs to be written down word for word. I would advise that person to say the entire 10-minute close out loud 100 times.
Okay.
and then it's drilled into that person. At the 45-minute mark, at the 50-minute mark, you're starting to the close. At the 45-minute mark, you've got to make a mental note and transition. You have to be in the close at 10 minutes till, and then you deliver that close perfectly, exactly the way that you practiced it 100 times, and that person's sales results will skyrocket, and then they'll have that for the rest of their life. Their confidence will soar, and they'll be like, wow, this really works.
So I love what you're saying, Eric, because it's about doing the extra work. Just like we talked about earlier in the show, going the distance, writing the script, and then practicing and making a commitment to adding this into your business process and strategies.
Yep, absolutely.
So we are actually going to take one more quick break. You are listening to the Be Legendary Show, and I'm your host, Kristen White, with co-host Dave Van Hoos. And if you want to call in, that number is 646-929-2228. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Eric about some of his success stories and hear what kind of results you can get when you increase your A game in sales. We'll be right back.
Would you like to discover how to create lasting, sustainable, and profitable success in your life? If the answer is yes, then listen up. Here's your opportunity to join hosts Dave Van Hoos and Kristen White in person at the Be Legendary Experience in Irvine, California. At this one-time only exclusive event, you'll discover how to unlock millions in your message, become a legendary figure in your marketplace, create lasting change on the planet, all with the help of the world's most influential transformational thought leaders, live and in person. Seating for this event is limited, so act now and do not miss your opportunity. Visit us online at speakingempire.com/events. That is speakingempire.com/events, or call to register at 1-800-687-4061. That's 1-800-687-4061. Be bold, be remarkable, be legendary, and sign up today.
And we're back, and I'm your host, Kristen White, here on the Be Legendary Show with Dave Van Hoos. And our guest today is Eric Lofholm. He's the author of the book, How to Sell in the New Economy. And Eric, I would love to hear, just to give us an example of someone you've worked with who's had some amazing results because they've incorporated. I mean, these are really some basic strategies, but they do take some work.
Yeah, I'll just give you a quick example of a client who was super resistant to selling. And he's a small business owner, owns a photography and video studio, and got in the business of doing photography and video for people because that's what he loves. And so he does the business, economy's doing great, lots of business just flowing to him. And when the economy tightened up, he lost that easy business. And he called me up and he said, Eric, I'm about to lose my studio because I don't know how to sell. I'm uncomfortable selling. I'm uncomfortable asking for the order. And so I crafted a simple script for him. I mapped out for him, when you do that initial consultation with the prospect, how to do that process. And that was 2 years ago. He still has a studio. His income's way up. He's comfortable selling. If he was on the call right now with all of us, he would say, I went from being uncomfortable selling to now I understand the process, and it's very comfortable for me. And what I want you all to get from the story is that when you know what to do, selling, we just demystify the whole process, and it can become fun, easy, and effortless.
So can you tell us a little bit about the program that you currently offer for people who want to get some of this amazing sales training you're talking about?
Yeah, I actually, I've been criticized because my program's price point is too low. And the reason why I do it this way is I want to help as many people as I can. And so we actually train people. We have a lifetime membership for a one-time investment of only $299. So we will professionally train you on your mobile device or tablet, and I could go on for another 10 minutes, and I won't, about all the bells and whistles that come with it. But it's a one-time investment of $299. We will get you professionally trained. You can actually get certified in my system and get the skill sets that you need to become more successful.
Wow, I mean, at that price, I can't imagine anyone that wouldn't want to just add this because, I mean, even closing one simple transaction, it'd pay for itself.
Yeah, if you need the help, where you go for that special pricing, it's silverprotege.com/special, silverprotege.com/special. And if you need the help, I mean, whether you get it from me or somebody else, get the help, because you must be on your A game in this economy. And I love helping people that are in that space that just really want to learn selling and get professionally trained.
Absolutely. Eric, both you and I are going to be in Irvine, California in about a little bit over a month right now for the Be Legendary experience. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about and teaching everyone who attends this incredible event?
Yeah, I'm going to be working on a very specific niche of selling, and that is phone sales. And so we get the leads into our database, we give the speech, we do the conference call, and you might make an offer at that point and make whatever sales you make. And you get buyers and non-buyers. Those that buy the product or service you're offering, they're a buyer. The ones that don't are the non-buyers. And there is a fortune in systematically working your database for those non-buyers. And so I've been doing that particular system for the last 19 years. I'm an expert at it. So I'm going to be teaching you how do you use all these sales strategies that I'm talking about, but specifically for back-end telemarketing systems.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave Van Hoos and Dustin Matthews with Speaking Empire have put together just an amazing event. I mean, there's experts like you. I'm going to be there running a TV show from there. And I know that they are only, here's a little bit of scarcity, but it's actually real, true scarcity. They're only allowing 150 people, and I think that they're almost sold out. We're still a month out. So if there are people who want to just get that edge, get your A game front and forward, through the end of the year, I strongly recommend that you grab those last couple of spots.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to seeing those of you that are able to make it there. There's no substitute for coming out and being at a live event. You can come up, if you connected with me here today, you can come up, shake my hand, introduce yourself to me, and we can teach you a system for monetizing all those leads that you've got in your database. Some of you have never touched those folks with back-end telemarketing, so there's just a gold mine sitting there with that particular strategy.
It's interesting. I've seen a lot of things that used to be popular start to come back again. I mean, I know we're talking about phone sales and telemarketing, and that's something that was real popular, and then it kind of moved away, and now it seems like it's coming back. And the other thing that I'm noticing, Eric, is like direct mail. For the longest time, I never got any mail, and now slowly I'm starting to get some more mail. Are there some other things that you are seeing that are starting to re-emerge, I would say, that are getting some results, old school marketing?
Well, I think it's this whole integration conversation that we've been having, and at the end of the day, a lot of times the sale is going to happen through a one-to-one connection. The phone is the fastest, easiest way to grow your business. So if you can integrate these technology tools like automated webinars and video email to then get a conversation on the phone and then take them through an effective sales process. So phone sales it's one of probably your 5 most important business skills, and there's a whole science and art to it. So I think the big idea is the integration of the technology to then produce an effective phone call.
Let's talk about this phone sales for just a minute longer. So you're an entrepreneur or even a solopreneur. Would you recommend that someone who runs a small company hire a salesperson, or that they just develop a strong sales script?
It could be a couple of different things. When I started my company, it was just me, so I had to do the phone sales myself. eventually I hired somebody. I've done outsourced telemarketing. So you can have, there's a lot of people looking for work from home right now, so they can do the phone calls from home. You can bring an employee in-house. You can do it yourself. You can outsource it overseas. There's a lot of different ways to incorporate the strategy into your business, and it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Let's talk about, let's say we touched on this before, and I do think that a lot of people are listening to this conversation. They're like, oh, God, I just, like you said, your client who owned the photography video studio, they're resistant to sales. What do you believe are some of the most common fears that people have that come up when it's like time to sell?
Well, they're certainly afraid of asking for the order. They don't view themselves as a salesperson. The photographer did not view himself as a salesperson, and I had to get him to realize that it's a part of your business, and you've got to I encouraged him, let go of this resistance, because it's dramatically hindering your ability to be successful. So it starts with embracing sales, and then it's sales systems, sales scripting, getting professionally trained, and there's an amazing possibility for anyone listening that has resistance around selling. Because think about it, you've gotten whatever results you've gotten with that resistance. We take the resistance away, we wrap a great system around you, we give you a great script, and there's huge potential for improvement with the conversation that we're talking about.
It sounds like there is a lot of freedom that can come from not just developing the mindset, but then taking the steps necessary and saying that this is a key component that I need to add to my business.
It feels better, but I mean, put that aside. It makes money.
Right.
Money's a good thing when we're in business and we need to make payroll and we want to expand and we want to hire an assistant. This will give you the additional income. In some cases, it'll keep you in business. In other cases, it'll help you thrive. And in some cases, it will allow you to dominate in your marketplace. And if you continue to resist selling, then it's frustrating and you're probably going to continue to struggle. So
what is something that our listeners can do right now, one or two simple strategies to just elevate their results?
One is, not to beat a dead horse here, but let go of sales resistance. And you really need to get professionally trained. It really comes down to that. That's the best thing you can do. I'll give you one other very quick strategy, and I'll go much more in depth on this at the training that's coming up in October. But if you have an email list, you can send out what's called a teaser email. And so I might send out an email to my list, and it says, I'm looking for 7 people that would like to personally coach with me. Will you be one of the 7? That's the subject line. It's a teaser email. Dear friend, I'm looking for 7 people to personally mentor. If you'd like to be considered for this opportunity, email me back your name and phone number. So it's a very simple email. I don't tell them the name of the program. I don't tell them the price. It's a teaser email. So I send that out, and then 47 people email me back. And now they basically are saying, I'm willing to book an appointment with you to hear the details. So I'm not telemarketing my list, prospecting, looking for who wants to talk to me. I extract out the people that are ready to talk with me now. And I had a client do this who was doing a co-op advertising project with Entrepreneur Magazine, and I crafted the subject line, would you like to be in an upcoming issue of Entrepreneur Magazine with me? That was the subject line. Dear friend, I've got 9 slots. I'm looking for people who would like to be considered to be in Entrepreneur Magazine with me. If you'd like to be considered, send me your name and email. Well, before I gave her the strategy, she called me up in a panic, like, I've got my deadline coming up. I don't know what I'm going to do. I said, what's your strategy to fill the slots? Telemarketing. I said, send out a teaser email. So she sends the email out. She sold the thing out in like 2 days because she got the people that were interested to raise their hand. So that's a simple how-to strategy if you have an email list that you can do that can bring you in immediate revenue, and then you can do it again every 90 days.
God, I love that idea. I think that can really work for someone who has something that's hot that definitely has, a limited availability, just to jumpstart a new flow of cash into their business.
Yeah, that's an immediate cash now strategy.
Oh, I love that. So I challenge everybody out there who's listening to the show to think what kind of teaser email they could send out today, and would love to hear about your results on our show next week. You know, I was talking to, I can't remember who it was recently, and they said that they follow, you know, all the major holidays, and when they have their sales and their promotions, they do it themselves, you know, and that some of those strategies are actually quite helpful. What do you think about doing special offers or sales around? I mean, we're heading into Labor Day weekend right now. Is there something that someone could do to activate or engage their list while people are actually on vacation?
Well, my wife goes out for the Black Friday sale at Thanksgiving a couple years ago, and we finish up with dinner. She goes, I'm heading out. I'll see you tomorrow morning. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, well, I'm going down to Walmart and Target, and, you know, all the different stores have their midnight sales. And so she left, and I thought, wow, this is going to cost me a lot of money. So it gave me this idea to send out an email to my list, and I told them exactly what happened. My wife just informed me she's going to the Black Friday sales, and so I figured I'm going to have my own Black Friday sale. I didn't know what to expect. I sent the email out. I did, $15,000 in sales off this Black Friday sale. I repeated it again at New Year's, and now every Thanksgiving I run this Black Friday sale. So you could do it for the Labor Day weekend. People love sales, and so you put together a time-sensitive sale around an event, a year-end, a quarter-end, a Labor Day. I think it's a great strategy.
Yeah, and I know that I think that it can be helpful for people who sometimes their business feels like it's a little seasonal. You know, we're coming off the summertime, you know, back to school. It seems like people have been paying attention to, you know, whatever domestic issues or things that are going on, you know, with getting everyone settled, and that may be a good time to run some promotional opportunities inside your business so where you're still keeping that income steady instead of it going up and down like it can for some, you know, entrepreneurs, people in real estate, people who, you know, may notice different cyclical trends in the amount of sales that comes in.
Absolutely.
So, Eric, tell us a little bit about how people can get in touch with you. I know you have your book, How to Sell the New Economy. Where can we find that?
You can get that book on Amazon.com. And a great next step, if you connected with my message today, you can go to my main website, saleschampion.com, and we have 21 videos on closing. It's totally free. You can do it right over your computer. So if you want to learn some more from me, that'll put you on my email list, saleschampion.com. And look forward to seeing those of you that come to our October event. It's going to be amazing event, and we're going to have a great time there.
Yeah, no, Eric, thank you so much for today, Eric Lofholm. He is, as you can see, just an incredible sales trainer. I know that you have spoken to, 1,500 companies. And if someone wanted to see you live and get this stellar presentation, you know, Irvine is a great opportunity because I understand that a lot of those are inside corporations where you wouldn't get access normally to hear what you have to teach.
Yep, that's absolutely correct.
All right. So, Eric, I just want to thank you so much for being here today with us on the Be Legendary Show, and we will see you in Irvine, California. And for all of you listening, we will be here next week. We have an incredible lineup of guests. I believe Dave and Dustin and myself, we have the show booked out through the end of the year. So we have a lot of incredible people lined up to be coming to you each week, and we will take your questions live. And that guest call-in for each week is 646-929-2228. And Eric, again, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, everybody, thanks for listening today. Have a wonderful week and a great holiday, and we will be back with you next week for the Be Legendary Show. Until then, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Blog Talk Radio, where millions of hosts and listeners gather.